My favorite thing about Karl with cycling is just he wanted everyone on a bike. If people came into his bike shop with the cheapest bike, he would just fix it to the best of his ability to get them back out on the bike. He just wanted people on bikes to go see something or to go race, you know? He just wanted people to experience the freedom and the benefits of getting on a bicycle.
Was born in the Northern California.
Today we're talking about one of my favorite people in my many decades of cycling, Karl Becker. I met him right after I joined St. Louis Cycling Club. Let's see, it would have been around 83 or 84. And first thing I want to say about Karl is to this day, Karl is epitome of rock and roll bike racing to me. That time in my life my two favorite things were punk rock music and, all the 80s music was fantastic, and bike racing, and it all went together. All the bike racers were into the coolest music, and Karl was leading the tastemakers in the cool music, and just such a great guy. He introduced me to Spin magazine. And he really just led the charge of being this unique guy that embodied so much what I loved about bike racing.
He probably introduced you to a few other things, I would think.
Those are the main things. Also about Karl, I want to say is he and Jeff Roche were both bike mechanics, and I was brand new to cycling and a terrible mechanic. And I showed up at those early races in the Carondelet Park series is what I especially remember. And they would I'd look at my bike and just look at each other and start laughing and rolling their eyes. And they'd immediately go to work to get me dialed in. And it actually kind of became this dysfunctional relationship where I would just continue to be terrible about maintaining my bike, because when I'd show up, they'd get it all dialed in and it would feel so much faster because I'd been neglecting it for weeks. And then right before the race, it was all dialed in. But anyway, he's a fantastic guy. And I'm super excited that we've gotten this opportunity to talk about him today. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves and we can start talking about Karl.
I'm Amy Becker, Karl's little sister. We are super close, talked every day for the last 10, 15 years of his life. Super close.
Hi, and I'm Lisa, and I'm Karl's Irish twin. And we were super close as kids and teenagers. And then we still stayed very close emotionally, but we both went our kind of separate ways, although we saw each other at least like once a month and just had a great time and talked about everything.
Very cool. I wanted
We're the favorite sisters. We're the favorite sisters.
So how many siblings? So how many siblings were there total?
There's 6 total.
Oh my gosh. I didn't even realize that.
2 older sisters, then Karl, and then a younger sister. And we were all born in 5 years, the 4 of us.
Oh, wow.
And then 7 years later, Mom had a brother for Karl and then another sister, which is Amy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So cool.
Yeah.
What are your earliest memories of Karl on a bicycle?
It was a tricycle, and he was so fun and cute, and he was just the best little brother, just riding that trike. We would go, we lived on a cobblestone alley street, and we would just ride our tricycles up and down, just jiggling.
Well, for me, I don't really, because by the time, I was 10, 12, Karl was already kicked out of the house.
Well, we should talk about that.
I have a lot of memories of him on the bike. I remember one time we did the Moonlight Ramble, and I think I was on the back. Sam Moore was riding the front of it, but Karl was leading the pack, and I didn't know you could win the Moonlight Ramble.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
No, it's not a race, but you can win it. We came in second.
For those who don't know, do they still do the Moonlight Ramble?
They do, yes.
Yeah, remind me what the event is. I know you ride through this downtown St. Louis.
You start downtown, you kind of go through even up to almost to South St. Louis and then back around, loop around. I think it's about 18, 20 miles. Okay. I think it's if I'm not mistaken, one of the largest nighttime rides in the country, if not the.
And it's really kind of low key. It's not, although you mentioned there's a winner, it's really people all.
There's really not supposed to be a winner. It's just the group I happen to be with.
Oh,
Made
they
it
just,
into a race. They made it into a
A
race.
little bit competitive.
And it's not real fun when you're on the back of a tandem.
oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always those cyclists that have to turn it into something competitive,
Exactly.
no matter what you're doing. Well, that's cool. And that's great to hear that they're still doing that, because I remember riding it. It's super fun riding it at
Really
night
fun.
like that. What are your memories of when Karl, like, how did his cycling evolve into becoming, like, what point did he start getting competitive?
Our dad was very competitive, and we went to a lot of his races with the St. Louis Cycling Club, Turkey Day, Derby Day, just hung around with a lot of the cyclists, and Karl was always interested.
Very
And
cool.
he emulated dad, so it was kind of a natural thing.
And he really loved track racing too. Really
Right.
loved- He loved the track.
Mhm.
Since you mentioned your dad, why don't we talk? Because I know your dad was really accomplished with cycling, and it was in the Olympics.
Mhm.
And why
Mhm.
don't you talk about your dad and his history with
Sure.
his accomplishments?
So our dad, he was a pilot in the Air Force, and he lived in Florida just for a few months to do a solo flight like across Lake Okeechobee. And I just learned this probably 10 years ago. He was doing this, he was just riding his bike down this country road, and this guy came up to him and said that there were bike races next Sunday, and they were the first ever Florida state champion races. And my dad said, well, maybe I'll enter. So he entered and he won. He was the first ever Florida state champion. But this is while he was training for the Olympics. So he competed in the 1956 Olympic Games in the road race, 112 miles, I think.
112 miles.
He, as my dad said, he didn't steal the show then. He was the only American to finish, though, which, the Europeans had it was a different sport to them than to us at that time.
Right.
But we found a letter that my dad wrote to his brother, and he just said, these damn Europeans are tough. He said, I just hope we finish as a team. And then he really wanted to finish as a team, but he was the only American to finish the race, which got his name in the records books, and that's pretty darn good.
And then he had the cycling, a bike shop over on Damon, was it? Or
No,
am
at
I
first it
thinking
was
of-
on North and South in University City, and then
Okay.
he moved over to Jackson and Pershing.
Okay. That's where I remember it. Yeah. I'm just getting the names confused.
He was excellent at the track too, my dad. I mean, his record I held for a really long time. He was a very good sprinter. He had those good twitch muscles. Yeah, he was great.
And that was up at Penrose.
Yes.
Is the track, which I know that was in a fair amount of state of disrepair when I was racing in the 80s, but I understand they've redone it, and I see a lot of pictures now from the St. Louis Cycling Club.
Yes, it was redone.
It's redone, but it's still on the map as Mr. Bumpy Face.
Oh,
and ever since, making a segue to Karl real fast, he talked all the time to me about getting kids that live in that neighborhood to use that amenity. And when Karl passed away, I wrote letters to all the bike shops. I've met with people every year for the last 5 years trying to get a youth program. And we finally got kind of close, and someone didn't file the 501c.
oh man.
Because he talked about, like, they have this right in their backyard. And it's, there's we have helmets, we have some bikes to loan, we had someone to write the waiver. So that's something we still really want to try to do, is try to get a youth program, not named after Karl, nothing like that, but just something that he talked about that we know he would be so happy to have.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. That's very cool. Yeah, that would be great to get
So
going.
I'll keep you posted on that.
So do you have memories as kids going up there to watch your dad race?
Definitely. We would go up there, and we were kind of in the sidelines, so we kind of hung out with the kids of the other St. Louis Cycling Club members, but we would watch the races too, and it was just impressive. And I mean, let's face it, my dad was impressive, so we were always like, yay, Dad.
That's so cool. What's another memory you have of your dad and racing?
Well, for me, it was kind of the Turkey Day. Did you ever do that with the St. Louis Cycling Club? The Turkey Day race?
The name sounds familiar, but I'm not remembering that specifically. Yeah, tell me about that.
It was just fun. They just did all sorts of little fun races. It wasn't super serious.
And they was a slow race.
Right. They would get on top of a hill, and whoever got to the bottom last who stayed on their bike would win. Just little silly things like that.
Pedal. Yeah, they couldn't pedal. They had to go down the
They
hill
just
and
had to,
pedal and just,
you know,
they kept pushing themselves.
Just keep,
Yeah.
keeping
Yeah.
their handlebars moving so they'd stay on the bike.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was just very fun as a child to see your dad doing all that.
Yeah. And what a great example for your kids too, to be doing this healthy activity and excelling at sports and everything.
Mhm.
And a lot of, companionship and fellowship. It was great.
Yeah. The same. And then, so when era would that have been in the 60s and 70s?
70s.
Okay. Yeah. So the St. Louis Cycling Club, I mean, and a lot of people aren't aware, the St. Louis Cycling Club is the oldest cycling club in the U.S., founded in 1887. And so, I mean, and it's just really cool, the history of that club. And your dad, I know, was a huge, one of the iconic members of it.
Well, they had quite a few Olympic members on the 56 team. I think
George Van Meter
and Erhard Newman. They were both St. Louis Cycling Club too. But
I didn't realize that.
They didn't finish the race like our dad.
No, and I think there was one other one from San Francisco.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amy, weren't you telling me, didn't your dad also, wasn't he connected to, or have some connection to the Breaking Away movie?
Yes. So you would know this too. So Dave Blase, who was actually an announcer in the actual movie, they were friends. And he came over for dinner. I only remember one time because I was younger, but my mom said he would really sing in Italian and stuff. Like he was a real character.
He sure was.
And when I was little, I was like, after I saw the movie, I'm like, well, why didn't they make a movie after Dad? Because this guy he wasn't in the Olympics. He wasn't in the Pan American Games. He didn't do all this. But my mom just said he was such a character. But they'd stayed friends for many, many years.
That's super cool. So that Dave was who they based, was the Dave?
The character, the main character, yes. Dave Blase, yes. And he is an announcer in the movie. He is in the movie.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
That movie changed so many people's lives. I mean, I know that. Well, that's literally what got me into racing when it came out. I went home that night and rode around the neighborhood on my stepmother's Sears bike, and then kept graduating from there.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, tell me about your memories of Karl as he got more serious into cycling.
So he worked for my dad at the bike shop, and I think that really was helpful to Karl when he was younger. I think it helped his work ethic. But he would talk about when they would ride home. I mean, Karl talked about this 10 years ago. He would ride home with my dad. Mm-hmm. And he said there's like a little slight hill that goes down or something. And he said my dad would beat him every time. He goes, I tried every time we'd ride. We had this one little spot we would race. He said it didn't matter how old my dad was. He beat him every time. They were competitive.
That's awesome. I've never heard that. That is so cool.
Yeah.
And then did he go right into racing, or was he kind of into touring first? It sounded like he was competitive.
No, I don't think he ever went into touring. I think he was always into racing. I mean, just like you, once he got that itch, I think it was hard as he really found his passion to race to have my dad's reputation, people comparing, I think. Oh, really? I think he tried hard to make him proud, but I don't know. I think
be his own racer.
Yeah, be his own. And he was his own. He had the nickname Crash Karl. So,
I don't even remember that. How do
I remember one time he got a wedding invitation. Crash Karl Becker to a wedding invitation with that. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Just because he was having accidents all the time, or in the races?
I don't know. I think he was having accidents, but I think he was more aggressive, than some.
Yeah.
And he had the scars to prove it.
Yeah, he definitely. Oh, in fact, some of the pictures I have of Karl are at a out of town race that we'd gone to, and he's all bandaged up. He had crashed, so that totally makes sense. That's really cool. But I know I was not as involved with the track. I just wasn't as into that. I couldn't afford a track bike, and so I just focused on the road. But he was really serious with that, right?
Very serious. Yes. He loved the track. I know he used some of my dad's bikes. I mean, it's kind of funny to say a Schwinn Paramount, but back in the 60s and 70s, that was the bike, and then they were all custom made. My dad would win a race and they'd be fitted to my dad, and they could really share a bike, basically, maybe a couple tweaks here and there. So I know he raced a lot on my dad's track bikes when he first started out.
And I have to say, one great memory I have with being competitive with Karl, on Friday nights in the winter, St. Louis Cycling Club had these amazing old competition rollers. They were these giant steel drum rollers that all connected to it looked like a clock with the St. Louis Cycling Club logo on it. Mm-hmm. That there was 3 different colored rollers, and there's a dial that went around as you pedaled, and they had half mile, 2 mile or something. And people you'd all be spotting, because everyone would be going so fast spinning that people would wreck, or they'd lose control, and it would just burn through the tire and blow it right away. And I mean, you could get burned and hurt pretty bad from those old rollers. Yeah. Those things were so fun though. And I definitely remember Karl being at those, and that was one of my favorite things as a teenager on Friday nights.
He and my dad did rollers at home all the time, instead of a stationary bike.
Yep.
That's so cool. Yeah.
They were kind of old school, I guess.
Yeah.
You had the right saddle, you had the right right feel of the bike, all that stuff. So
it's great for bike control, and it's actually a great training for cycling.
Yes.
What are some other favorite memories of Karl and cycling as you guys were growing up and seeing him evolve as a rider?
That's when my life became very busy.
Yeah, Lisa has 9 kids.
9 kids.
Oh my gosh.
That's why Karl and I were always very close, but we didn't see each other that much. I was kind of busy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
But I always was proud to hear him. The thing I remembered, it wasn't racing, was when he went out west. And he was showing me pictures, and it was so scary. He was like riding right next to the drop-off.
I'll send it to you. I'll send you the pictures.
And he was it just looked terrifying to me, but he was so happy.
Well, and she's leaving out one big part of that story. The rock that he was riding next to was Slick Rock in Moab.
Moab.
I mean, that's not exactly where you want to be, on the edge of a rock. I mean, you can see his friends like sitting down in the background.
Yes.
Because they don't want to get close to the edge. And here he is right on the edge.
Pictures were terrifying, but he was so happy.
He loved Moab. He loved all that. Maybe those cobblestones is what got him started on that when he was on the tricycle.
Maybe.
And see, my experience with Karl is different because of our age difference.
Right.
And it's just interesting because Karl and I, on paper, I mean, we shouldn't even really have liked each other. I mean, we're very different. But
I disagree.
when we were together, we were just same humor. We got along great. But I'd say my favorite thing about Karl with cycling is just he wanted everyone on a bike. If people came into his bike shop with the cheapest bike, he would just fix it to the best of his ability to get them back out on the bike. He just wanted people on bikes to go see something or to go race, I mean, the day after he died, a guy came to the bike shop asking for him, and someone had to tell him what happened. He said, "Oh, man." He goes, "He gave me my bike for free so I could get to work."
Wow.
And there's 10 stories. Like, he just wanted to get people to experience the freedom and the benefits of getting on a bicycle.
And I just want to say, there's been a theme in this series. I love this sport, beyond the sport, as I love the people. And there's those people who go that extra mile to help others enjoy the sport. And Karl was absolutely one of those. I mean, I joke about him always fixing my bike, which is true, but he was just there to help people out. And like you said, he wanted to encourage you. He wanted everyone, he loved it so much, and he wanted just to spread that love. And that was one of the magical things about him. And
on the flip side, he was learning Flemish so he could listen to the Tour of Flanders, Like,
oh my gosh!
Like, I mean, he had such a sophisticated side to him as far as that type of thing. He wanted to know, as far as the stats and the racing and the European side. He wanted to know all about that. But his number one thing was get on a bike, see where it can take you.
Totally. That's
you remember?
awesome.
Did you work with him ever? Did you work with him ever at Maplewood? No.
I never worked in the bike industry.
okay.
I probably should have. I should go back and learn some bike
Yeah.
biking skills. Karl would be super proud. I was telling you before we got started recording, I had a flat recently, and I was imagining Karl looking over my shoulder, just laughing, knowing I wouldn't be able to get the tire on. And when I actually surprised myself that it popped on, I imagined him looking over my shoulder, just laughing in disbelief. He did it. Yeah, I taught him something over these last many decades. So,
well, I just asked because he worked for Maplewood, I think I'm pretty sure it was Maplewood. Rich Morris, who he really liked, but we asked him for to take a month off to go to Europe. He didn't have any money. He just took his bike, and I mean he slept on benches and stuff. And Rich said no, and he said, well, then I quit. And then he came back about 6 weeks later, said, are you hiring? And Rich said yes. So we got his job right back.
That is so Karl. That is so awesome.
Yeah.
So give me some more insight as people who really knew him. I knew him well, and again, a great inspiration to me. But yeah, tell me more about things.
Well, you kind of learn a lot of stuff about somebody, even little stories after they're gone. I'll tell you that one person called me. They lived together, I guess, in the 80s. And he said that Karl had that Tandem, and he said on Friday nights, he would take the Tandem out for a ride, and he would come back with a girl in the back of the Tandem.
Oh,
That's
he said it happened 2 or 3 times. He'd pick up a chick at a bar or something on the Tandem and bring them back to have drinks at the house on the Tandem.
That is hilarious. That's awesome. And that is totally Karl. That is totally Karl Becker.
I know.
Remind me, when did he pass away, and how did he pass away? I know he was really young, or way too young.
Yeah,
way too young at age 55.
So he was not healthy. I mean, he wasn't healthy. He didn't take care of himself. I think he finally started something kind of switched when he was about 53 a little bit. He'd start sending me pictures that he had oatmeal instead of bacon and eggs, and he would just send me pictures of things that he'd have, like a vegan meal. Of course, he didn't. That was like once a week. He'd send me. God only knows what he's eating the other days. But he was a little bit turning the corner, and then he had something happen. He told me, I was in St. Louis 2 weeks before he died. I know exactly where we were in the car, and he said, "Yeah, I was riding with my friends the other day, and I just couldn't see out of the side of my peripherally." And I said, "Well, that could have been maybe ocular migraine." I said, "I've had that. Did you get like this?" And he's like, "No." And I said, "Well, you should go to the doctor." He didn't like going to the doctors. But he did go get he did get a scan of some kind after that, I think. And then he had a stroke. And he had a stroke, and he was an organ donor. And it was very hard because when you're an organ donor, they have to keep you on machines longer than it's fair. It's what he wanted. It's just not what we wanted. We just didn't want to see him like that. But we knew it's what he wanted. It was tough. So in St. Louis, I talked to the new owner of Maplewood about 2 months after this happened, and he said this doctor came in that week and just down. He's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And he's like, "Man," he's like, "2 nights ago, I lost a patient that he didn't even know he didn't know anything about Karl." He said he was a bike rider, and I didn't know him, but I just someone came up and said he was a good guy, and then his family, and he's like, I feel awful about it. And they found out it was Karl. I mean, even he made an impression on the doctor.
Right. So he was still, cycling was still a part of his life all the way, all through. You said he was still riding. Was he still riding serious, or just still enjoyed riding?
He did serious on the weekends, on Sunday, because he worked so much since he owned the shop. But he rode with group on Sunday. But I think you're always a cyclist if you don't have a car.
Yeah.
I do have one really good story about him. Another good story about him riding his bike to the bank. He was riding his bike to the bank for a deposit in the wintertime, and he had it all in his back pocket, and it was just right up the street. And he got to the bank, no deposit, cash and checks and everything.
From the bike shop.
From the bike shop. And he called me up. He was so upset. And I said, "Karl, I can float you. Just tell me what, I'm happy to help you, whatever." He said, "Oh no, the story's not over yet." And I said, "What?" He goes, "When I opened up," because he opened at noon in the winter. He said, "This guy came in, and the guy was kind of eccentric." He goes, "Money was flying everywhere. Everywhere money was flying." And Karl goes, "What do you mean?" This guy grabbed all the money and gave it to Karl, gave it back to him. And the guy the guy was not, I don't think he was homeless, but he was not an affluent person. And so Karl gave him half the cash, and he said, do you need work? He said, if you need work, you come here every, once a week. I'll pay you. I'll find something for you to do. Because the guy said, the heating bills are so expensive. So of course, Karl gave him more. And I said, if you need to come back, just come back and I'll give you a job once a week. But he didn't, he never came back. But I mean, it says more about that guy that found the money to me than Karl. I mean, that's an amazing story on both parts.
That is incredible.
Yeah. There's so many good people out there,
Yeah. And that's a classic Karl Becker story though, still.
What goes around comes around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about his shop. Yeah. Cause most of the time my memories were walking to Maplewood, it's a great bike shop. Even though they sponsored our rivals, the Cyclones, I still went in there regularly. And I remember walking in and seeing Karl. Yeah. Just great personality and, greeting you. He's had that great Karl Becker smile and, just always just such a great guy, such great energy. And you said you worked for your dad when he was younger. So, and tell me about how he eventually had his own shop.
He met a friend, or a friend helped him get the shop. It's a very, very old bicycle shop.
1929. It's on
Arsenal and more.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Across from Tower Grove Park.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. Right, so
and actually two customers, loaned him the money to buy that shop.
Wow.
Which again says a lot about Karl. I mean, it's not like this guy's selling them, 30-year-old bonds or something. I mean, this is a bike shop that's an old school bike shop.
Yeah.
And the people in the neighborhood and even the club members knew that he was serious about getting bikes fixed quickly. So he had a great reputation. Although sometimes it kind of looked like a plant store because he had plants all around the front.
It is true. Yeah, that's true.
It's a cool corner. It was called A&M, Arsenal and Morganford.
So cool. Oh yeah, A&M. Okay, A&M bikes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Super. Is that it was a bike shop before he bought it?
It was.
Yes.
It was. I don't know if you've ever seen that schematic that they did. I think it was in one of the cycling magazines here. If I can find, I'll send it to you. It shows like 3 or 4 bike shops in St. Louis from the last 100 years and how they sprouted off and how they changed hands. So this bike shop, it was, I don't know who it was originally. I think Chapius or something. I don't know. But eventually Bob Blackwood bought it. And Bob Blackwood's family owned Southside Cyclery.
Right. They were the St. Louis Cycling Club sponsor when I was active.
So Bob owned that, and then Bob sold it to Karl.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. Bob was a great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a super big presence in my cycling in the 80s. That's awesome.
And he showed, I do remember him showing up every Sunday to ride with my dad, Bob Blackwood.
Well, and in the 70s, I would, be with my dad a lot. And on the weekends, they would trade bikes amongst each other, bicycles to sell. And Dad was always going to A&M and always going to Southside. Those were his 2 main friends that they would all just trade. It was really fun getting to know them too and seeing their bicycle shops.
And that's super cool. And Southside's still active too, or at least the last time I was in St. Louis, it was still there. So that's so cool. And that's where the roller races were on Friday night. Southside.
Yes.
Any other final memories of Karl or his cycling, or just
I don't know if you want to
about him. Yeah.
The way Amy was telling you how he wants everybody on a bike.
Yeah.
When my oldest grandson was like 4 years old, I took him into the shop to get a bike, and it was so cute. He took him over to Tower Grove Park, and was like helping him and stuff. And then afterwards, my little grandson, I want to be a bicycle boy. And he wore bicycle pajamas and bicycle shirts, all because of Karl.
Oh.
That's awesome. That's Karl. What a great guy. What a great guy.
He had and this, like, past his workbench, he had like a wall that when the customers would come in, or little kids, he'd measure them, put their name and their date. And about a year after he died, a lady came in with her son and said she moved away 2 years ago, and she didn't really know that he was gone. But she said she had tears in her eyes. She goes, can I just see the wall? Oh,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. That's
Yeah.
great.
And I do have a funny story about Karl. When I first got my Peloton, he hated Peloton, because I should be outside just like my dad. But like George Hencappy and somebody else has classes on there, And so I sent a screenshot to Karl. I'm like, who should I ride with today? And I said that. And his reply was Steve, my husband, outside. He did not. I said, don't knock it till you try it. Peloton's fun. Yeah.
Karl was a purist for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. He really, and thank you for being such a good friend to him. I mean, yeah, thank you.
It was an honor. I'll never forget that guy. He's one of the most important cyclists in my history of cycling. And like you said, his spirit was infectious of helping you enjoy cycling and enjoying life and mix in some great music. And you got the perfect recipe for a great time. So
A little bit of beer too.
a little bit of beer. I remember being in his apartment, looking at Spin magazines on a Friday night, and then we walked over to some park that overlooked the Mississippi River, and he had some cool spot to climb down. And
yeah.
I think Jeff Roche was with us, and we were just hanging out. So lots of great times on and off the bike with Karl.
Yeah, we miss him every day.
We sure do.
And I'll send you some of those pictures and everything.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well,
you should have seen his party, and I'll send you the video. His celebration of life. You wouldn't believe it.
He touched so many people.
I mean, there was his attorney was there, his dentist was there, customers were there. It was unbelievable. The cops pulled up because there were so many people and so much noise and fireworks. And we were collecting money for Penrose Park that's what we collected money for.
right.
Even the cops, they knew Karl. They even gave to the fund.
I do want to add one thing there's a gravel. I mean, and this speaks to the impact that Karl had. There's a gravel ride in his name coming up in September in St. Louis that a whole bunch of people have been putting together, and I just keep hearing about it. And again, it's just a tribute to and a credit to what a great guy he was, and how important he is to the sport. So. Well, thank you so much for sharing your stories and giving me this opportunity to learn more about a great friend and a great fellow cyclist who is, again, I'll never stop thinking about it, the rock and roll bike racer. He was just awesome. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And one other thing, Kurt, this is for my dad. I don't know if you can see this, but my dad put together for all of us kids this book, and it's all like chronological of like all the articles that when he raced, like this was his Olympic picture, like all these.
Oh my God,
things.
that's so cool.
So I can scan this to you and Dirk because I know you're St. Louis Cycling Club.
Yeah,
like, it's all chronological. So I'll work on that this summer and I'll get this to you.
Yeah, that is so cool. Yeah, I definitely want to see that. Yeah,
I think you sent me this picture, didn't you, of Karl?
Yeah, that's one of the pictures I was talking about from the race where he wrecked. I forget where it was. It was out of town.
Yeah, you sent this to me. Yeah.
Dad got to carry the torch through St. Louis in 1996, the Olympic torch.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was so cool. Karl was there. I was there with my kids, and it was great.
That's awesome. And now, when did your dad pass away?
He passed away June 11th of 2013.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, our dad, I'll send you the pictures, until he was 79 years old, he still pushed me up hills. He fit into a suit from his wedding day his whole life. 6-pack, he was so disciplined.
Well, and he was interesting because he was very different from Cole. He's just, I remember him, I mean, obviously a great athlete, but just a very humble and kind of a quiet guy, but just
very reserved,
very, very kind, very cool, supportive, just another great member of the cycling community.
I have a friend who's a cyclist, and after Dad died, I took some of his notes, and he was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like it. It was like, and I don't know much about like competitive cycling, but he said it was amazing how my dad had notes where he would lead and then back up and let other people lead. And Dad never had to be the star of the show. He helped his whole team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A great story about my dad.
Random family.
When I was a little kid, we went to Sears to buy a washing machine, and this guy the salesman had on an Olympic ring, a big ring,
Oh,
I think
yeah.
for track and field. And my dad asked him all about it. He just wanted to hear all about his experience in the Olympics. How did he get there? Who helped him get there? How did he train? How did he sacrifice the time? How was his experience? I asked him thousands of questions. And we got in the car. I was like 10 or 12. I'm like, why didn't you tell him you were in the Olympics? He goes, because it was his time. It was his time to shine, not mine. I mean, that's just my dad. He was a better dad than Cyclist.
True.
He was the best dad.
In fact, I just gotta say this is a real tribute to two great cyclists because your dad was a giant in cycling and so was Karl.
Yeah.
On this day, we honor Karl Becker. We are humbled by the generosity of Karl and his family. His legacy continues in this final act of selflessness and heroism. This candle represents the hope for a new beginning being passed on to others and the light that Karl shared with us that will forever remain in our hearts. On behalf of St. Louis University Hospital, Mid-America Transplant, and the awaiting recipients and their families, we say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to impact the lives of many others and make a difference in our world.
Lie down in peace knowing death has no fear. We lie down in peace knowing no powers can harm us. We lie down in peace knowing angels are near.
Yet this life drifts like waves to know the secret shores. Yeah, this life drifts like waves to the shore, to the shore, to the shore.